Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Line update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. This podcast is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to betonline.ag today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. State of State is presented by BetOnline. The game starts here. State of State is proud to partner with Illumination Brewing for another season of crafting State IPA, the perfect tailgate and game day beer for Penn State football fans. State IPA is available starting Monday, August 19th at your local beer distributor, grocery store, plus select bars and restaurants. Visit illuminationbrewing.com/beer/state-IPA to learn more. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. Please drink responsibly. State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of State. Penn State's 2024 training camp has been underway for a little over a week's time at this point. The pads are on. Things are really starting to intensify. We're hearing a lot more from the coaches, from the players, through media day of how this is really going at this point. How does the Penn State football team look ahead of the 2024 season beginning on August 31st? At West Virginia. Like, comment, subscribe, rate us, turn on notifications as always, and comment on YouTube at State of State Pod. Before we dive into this too much, Justin, I do want to just quickly bring up the fun fact of everything that's going over at the University of Michigan, and that Sharon Moore is now under fire because, Jim Harbaugh left to go take the LA Chargers job. And when asked about all the variety of sanctions, etc., Jim Harbaugh had one of the most ridiculous quotes I think I've ever heard in my life. Quote, "Never lie, never cheat, never steal. I was raised with that lesson. I have raised my family on that lesson. I have preached that lesson to the teams that I've coached. No one's perfect. If you stumble, you apologize and you make it right. Today, I do not apologize. I did not participate, was not aware nor complicit in those said allegations. So it's back to work and attacking with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind." For those that don't know, this is also stemming from the Connor Stallions scandal that we saw go down in 2023, sign stealing, cheating, scouting, all those fun things that Michigan allegedly was doing.
That's funny.
It sounds like something from Winston Churchill, like not a football coach.
I've worked with a lot of people that I played against Harbaugh for a long time, so you get to know a coach and how their teams play and just how they approach stuff. And then, like, as a player, and then I worked with a lot of guys that played for him, and it's so funny because, like, the players that played for him in the past, especially the Stanford guys. I worked with Sam Schwartzman on Amazon Prime, who obviously played for him, and they kind of take on his personality. And so, like, everything that they say about 4 or 5 Harbaugh quotes a day, or just how he operates, right? And I'm saying that to say is, like, he like everybody that plays for him, it's like they were a part of this cult. So, like, I'm not surprised of that response, because, like, when he he builds a culture and he stands on it. Like, and if he believes in his mind that he's not breaking a rule, I think he really believes in his mind that he's not breaking a rule.
Oh, it's clear. He believes
it's very clear. And then I like to say, well, crime pays, because, like, everything that Michigan has gotten I think is worth any type of sanctions that's going to come from this Connor Stallion thing. Like, they're national champions. He goes to the NFL. He's got a raise. A lot of great things came from it. So if we're just going to look back and say like, okay, it's a level of lying, it's just like, now let's look at the whole infrastructure. Okay, where is it that these things are rewarded? But just isolated into Harbaugh, that is hilarious.
It is hilarious. And then I think the thing that sucks about this, and it's not to say that Sharon Moore had absolutely no knowledge that any of this was happening, but Harbaugh did leave Moore holding the bag.
Yeah, sure. I mean, has anybody seen like what is the
this happens all the time?
The crime doc. What's the crime doc? The guy on Wall Street who stole everybody's money. There's a lot of them, right? Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff, yeah.
When you see like we go to like the doc of Bernie Madoff, you're like, oh, he's the mastermind. Then you start realizing like, yo, he was a great leader because he had like a gang of people that were willing to do whatever to make this thing work. I hate to say it, but like football works a very similar way, right? There's a lot of things that is, secret side. I know what this is going on, but it's all for the greater good of the ultimate W. And it's just a matter of, I think the game is keeping it away from the fans. But I say the same because I probably just know too much about the business. I'm saying that to say like, it's comical to me. It sucks that they got caught cheating and there's people who's going to have an asterisk and probably lost to them when they had a disadvantage. But the game is actually learning how to cheat the best. If you admit that, and like if you admit it and you operate like it, I mean, I used to recruit guys, and then it's like, oh, he wakes up with a $75,000 truck. Like that's when I was working at Penn State. That's 2017, 18. So I can only imagine what's going on now with the process.
It's changing quite a bit. But yeah, I had to bring that up within the Big Ten. That's definitely an interesting point coming off of last season. But Penn State training,
the bag.
He really did. So we'll see if that turns out to be the truth. Anyway, at least these are allegations. Let's focus on Penn State's training camp right now. I want to start with the offense. Altogether, the word out of camp continues to be that Andy Kotelnicki, Drew Allar, the offense seems to be like there's a lot of excitement as to what this could be. Drew Allar has gone as far as to say that he looks forward to 2024 because he believes that the offense is going to put stress on defenses and bend the rules that the defenses have to play with. And that's not something that I've necessarily heard from Penn State over the years in regards to their offense. And that you tell me how you feel is that often the offense felt conservative and reactionary as opposed to attacking, and that term of putting stress on a defense. I don't know if I would use that to describe the offense the last 3 years and even beyond that. What do you think?
No, and I think it's like a chess matchup, right? Where you have a strong defense, and sometimes that persuades you to attack a certain type of way where it's like, hey guys, like we're not going to lose the game. Like you think of those old, I'm like date myself, but those old Ravens teams where the defense was crazy,
right,
and the offense stunk, or even vice versa when
the offense was limited. Yes.
Limited, right? But they still won national championship, Super Bowls. Yeah. Let's think about like on the flip side, you think of like the Colts when Peyton Manning was killing on offense and their defense was struggling a little bit. Okay, like our whole philosophy is to outscore people because we have a weak defense. So maybe that has come into the play with Penn State having just a traditional strong defense, have a first-year quarterback. Hey, let's hold it back a little bit. Let's just not lose the game. Let's just make sure we keep it safe. And his stats look like that was the case. And I think it aligns when you think of the fan feedback and just the emotional casual feel of like, hey, we weren't pressing to win the game, or when it got to the time where we needed to make a play, like it wasn't there. And then I'm always kind of countering that was, oh, look at the overall stats, 60%, only 2 interceptions. Like it seemed like he was doing what he was instructed to do. And when you scale out of the elite defense that you had, when you have a young quarterback, that's a pretty common framework that you tell a quarterback. It's like, hey, don't lose this game. Just make sure you make the plays, make the football play, but just don't lose us the game. And there was a lot of times where I think we saw that last year when we were expecting that, go win us a game that we got from like a Trace McSorley or from a Sean Clifford when he hits no, it wasn't Sean, but who was it that hit that was Trace. But like when our quarterback took it over and won a game, whether it was Michael Rod, we talk about that emotional attachment where where we feel like our fans like really buy into a player is when that player makes a play, not necessarily protects bad things from happening. It's just it's an interesting dynamic, but I think that's what we witnessed last year.
Altogether, the offense, you continue to hear positivity from a variety of different sources in regards to what they can be this coming season. Talking about the wide receivers, Andy Kotelnicki continues to say that he feels very excited about this group. It definitely signals to me, Justin, that there's positivity surrounding the wide receivers, at least internally with the program. And you're not hearing a lot about like, oh, well, this guy's did this or he's flashing or he's doing this or whatever. And it feels like maybe a decided effort by the coaching staff of let's play this one close to the vest and just let it play out, because you and I have discussed for a while now is that there's rare instances where James Franklin would come out and be like, this guy's awesome or something like that. And there's other times where he's just like, hey, I'm going to let you guys wait and see. And that's usually a positive sign when it's the latter of wait and see. You guys will find out. We're feeling good about it, that sort of thing. Because there's definitely been instances in the past. I remember it was maybe 2021 or 2022 where he was like, the offensive line looks really good, and just wait until you guys see how it goes. And it didn't quite work out the way that I think a lot of people expected. And since then, he has taken a bit more of a measured approach when projecting ahead with the players. So all this is to say that it sounds like there's some positivity surrounding the wide receiver core, and that hopefully the emphasis on the running game, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, focusing on those playmakers, making sure that they get the ball. That's something that's been brought up quite a bit, is that, yes, under Mike Yurcich, you'd be like, well, you have Singleton and Katron standing right there, or you have a weapon at wide receiver even at the time, going back to Parker Washington, Jahan Dotson. And it's like, how are these guys not getting the ball in select situations? Sounds like that is a real focus. And it sounds so obvious, Justin, to just be like, well, yeah, get your best players the ball. Yeah, but then it's another thing as the game plays out to be like, can we access this play? Can we access this athlete?
I think that's a very nuanced piece of coaching and just team sports in general, right? It's like a little bit of social engineering and like collective success, and like, but also pulling out the individuals when you need those individual wins. And that's what I think we're want to try to figure out what this offense can this upcoming season. But they have all the makings to, I think, make some noise.
Offensive line also seems to be a point that I think you and I have focused on it enough to the point that it's like, hey, this is definitely a wait and see thing. The word has been a lot of cross training, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. That seems to be what Penn State has done for a very long time now, whether Phil Troutwine has been there or not. James Franklin believes in having his offensive linemen prepared to play just about every single position. In your opinion, how difficult is it to balance that pursuit of mastering a specific position versus cross-training for a multitude of positions?
Oh, man, being a two-way player myself, no, but no, it's interesting, right? Because it really comes down to like the flexibility of intellect, like how much of the schemes can you pick up without feeling overloaded, right? So I was blessed when I was coming out of high school. Our offense that we ran was essentially like an air raid system. And so all the concepts that I knew were actually the same when I got to Penn State. So learning the offense was just more so learning terminology. The defense was pretty basic and kind of leaned on our front seven and just talent that we had. So there wasn't that much learning. It was more of a physical
Adaptation.
Yeah, from that standpoint. But I think it helps when it's not in a condensed time period, right? So I'm going to speaking from like a 9-month type of thing where you're able to understand the concepts from both sides. I think there's a lot of value to that, but there's nothing like seeing fact patterns or multiple fact patterns from the same position over and over and over. I think that's how you get the mastery, but you also doing both. We talk about that creativity and bank of dichotomy and moves that you can do and understanding. You have more information as long as you can bring that into a formulated plan. I think it's beneficial. So it comes down to the player and his ability to learn and how much information they can take in. So if it's someone that's a great learner and has a lot of information, I think it can be very beneficial to the ceiling of their abilities. But if not, it can probably stunt a player's growth.
The one thing that's been really great to hear from offensive line, one, you got Drew Shelton back. Drew Shelton, who sustained an injury and I believe had a surgery earlier on this year, missed spring ball, missed the blue-white game, but is now back into it. The coaches have said he's been very, very much engaged as much as he can be without being able to strap on the pads, et cetera, get out there and physically move around. So getting Drew Shelton back is great. Definitely helps you in terms of that potential rotation of offensive tackles, Javen Williams and Drew Shelton being looked at on the left side. On the right side, Anthony Donko and Nolan Rucci, the transfer from Wisconsin. So that's on the right side. And even though those guys are being looked at in those positions, are getting cross-trained in a variety of different spots, whether it's guard, whether it's the opposite tackle spot, that's really positive. The one thing I thought was interesting to hear was the number of guys getting snaps at center. I think we assume it's going to be Nick Dawkins. That's probably a safe bet in terms of who's going to be the starter there, but you've also gotten Vega Ioane, Sal Wormley, Cooper Cousins, Dominic Ruley, a lot of guys rotating in there to get snaps at center. And that was interesting for me to hear, Justin, because I've said it a number of times. I feel really good about the guard spots. Yes, you want to have depth in the event that somebody potentially goes down. Or is it something where this offense is looking at different ways that they can beef up this offensive line? For instance, Vega Ioane is one of the largest humans walking the planet in regards to college football. So if you were able to position that offensive line in a certain way where, hey, is Vega the one at center, and then you're working with JB Nelson and Sal Wormley, for instance, I'm just spitballing in these guard spots. That is a lot of humanity there right in the center of the line. Is that a select package? Do you want to stick with Nick Dawkins 24/7? It just gives you options, and it's
Jumbo.
something that I don't think exactly a nice jumbo package. Is it something you want to put on tape immediately? It just gives you options, and I think that's something that's really, really encouraging because while Penn State has had top-end ability of guys that are going to the NFL, Olu Fashanu, a perfect example, having depth and that flexibility to move guys around, not out of need, but because you want to, that's special. That's different.
It's extremely special. It brings another dynamic to the war on the field, right? Because it's all a chess game at the end of the day, and we're just trying to outsmart the next man and have those advantages where we can have them. So the more pieces that you have to fill those holes or to create problems, the better. So, I mean, I'm big on position flexibility. It's one of the top things when I'm looking at evaluation of a player, regardless of players wanting to be super specific, like I'm going to play corner, I'm going to play quarterback. I'm like, hey, if you want to open up this funnel and opportunity, show a range of athletic ability and things that you can do on the field. So, I like
one thing Andy Kotelnicki has talked about in respect to the running backs is the likes of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen getting involved in ways that, quote, don't just involve them taking a handoff. So we've talked about putting stress on the defense, passing the football, being a little bit more involved in that respect. I think there's so many people that saw what Kotelnicki put on tape at Kansas, and they're like, oh, are we going to get exactly that? And it's not so much. For me, it kind of harkens back to the Marcus Mariota Oregon days in terms of what this offense could be. Maybe not necessarily with a Mariota-esque quarterback. I'm not even remotely comparing Allar to Mariota, two very different athletes. But still, it gives you that type of flexibility, and that those were offenses based on running the football. And I know people here running the football, and it's like, yeah, it feels kind of like a Michigan or an Iowa thing where it's eye back, single back, play action, beat you with the offensive line talent, that sort of stuff. This is different. This is just something where there's going to be a lot of motion, a lot of pre-snap motion all together and trying to get the defense on their heels. So to hear Singleton and Allen being involved in a lot of different ways, it's encouraging to me. What do you think?
I think it's great. I think that's what he's brought here to do, though. At the end of the day, to get them in,
mix it up,
mix it up, get them into different situations to accentuate their talents, right? Like get Nicholas Singleton out on the edge, slip screens, different things of that nature. See if he can run some routes. I mean, again, it comes down to, I think, the charisma and how you call plays and the flow of a game. And I think that's more of like that artist touch than it is more of like the technical. I can drop this play. I can do that. It's like when you feel like, okay, we're going to call me this third and four, and this is kind of how the plays are presented. I think that's what's the mark of a great offensive, coordinator, just planning to attack defenses is from that standpoint. So we'll see when the games start, but I like the like the strategy.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, the one thing that a lot of fans don't love to hear in August around training camp, kicker battle, kicker competition. That's something that's been brought up. James Franklin and company have kept it pretty close to the vest. Justin Lustig is the new special teams coordinator, so we're going to have to see how this competition plays out in the next few weeks. Chase Meyer, Sanders Hadak, and Ryan Barker are your kickers. Chase Meyer just transferred in from Tulsa. Sanders Hadak obviously got some productivity last season. Does that give you any pause whatsoever? Or is it just kind of like normal camp stuff?
Normal camp stuff. Although kickers, like kickers and specialists, high school, college, hey, it's definitely wide open for like elite kickers. That's an extremely valuable position in college sports because it's hard to find them. Like it's hard to find someone that you can just trust in and out that can really knock that thing down. If I was for specializing in anything in football, it would be a kicker and punter.
The good news is you open up on the road against West Virginia, but then you got 2 games against the likes of Bowling Green and Kent State. So you have September to kind of see what you have. And then it's like, we got to lock this down. You don't even have most of September really, because you have Illinois there to close out the month. So it's like, hey, Big Ten play gets started like this. Hopefully it's not too big a deal. We'll keep an eye on it. So thank you all for tuning in. As always, like, comment, subscribe, rate us, turn on notifications, and comment on YouTube and at State of State Pod. Tell us which position battles you're excited about, which ones you're worried about. Got a few short weeks now until the season gets underway. Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Also, let us know what you think of the show on social media and check out all of our content on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Search for the handle at State of State Pod. State of State is presented by Bet Online and by Blue White Outfitters.